Dear students, how are you? I think you are safe and sound. Today, I will teach you English first paper, English for today of class 7, unit number 6, lesson number 9, The Selfish Giant, part 2. In the previous lesson, we knew a lot of things about the selfish giant. He had been out of his house for 7 years and he stayed with his friend during this time. When he came back home from his friend's house, he saw the children playing around his garden, and sometimes they play inside the garden, but the giant could not take it easy. He actually did not like the children and he did not like to allow the children into his garden. So he built a high wall around the garden and hang a notice board where he wrote, "The trespassers will be punished." So children became very sad. So dear students, today there is a picture, my dear students, and look at the picture. What do we see in the picture? You see the children are playing or talking around the wall. They are unable to enter the garden, so they are very sad. This is the picture of this lesson. This is the first picture. On the other page, there is also a picture. The children were not seen here, only the giant is sitting here and he was looking outside from his house. So there are two pictures, my dear students. So before enter the lesson, there are some new vocabularies of these passages. First we have blossom, meaning bloom, meaning bloom. It is related with flowers. Next, snow, snow, dew, dew. We see dewdrops in the winter, especially dews fall on the grass, and we see this in winter morning. Frost, ice. This is related water. So frost and ice is related with water. When water becomes hard, it turns into ice. Next, castle. 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 Fold. Fold. So, dear students, we have learned some new vocabularies. Here, I can start the lesson reading. The children had now where to play. There were no gardens around, and the roads were busy and crowded. After school, they used to go round the high wall and talk about beautiful garden inside. How happy we were there, they say to each other. In this passage, we see the children came back home and then they go to play the selfish giant, but it's a matter of sorrow. When they went to the garden, they saw a high wall around the garden. That's why they could not enter the garden, and they were unable to enter the garden. For this reason, they are saying how happy we were there. They say to each other. In the next passage, when came the spring, and all over the country there were flowers and there were birds. Only in the garden of the giant it was still winter. Here no birds were singing and no flowers blossoming. There were only snow and frost and not to eat in it. This is a very realistic picture of the garden. Actually, I think the giant did a wrong thing. For this reason, everywhere there was spring, but in the garden of the giant It was still winter. There were no birds, no flowers. There were only snow and winds in the garden, and the wind was very cold. In the next picture, I cannot understand why the spring is so late in coming, said the giant. He was sitting at the window of his big castle and looking out of his cold, dry, lifeless garden. I hope there will be a change in the weather, but neither spring nor the summer came to his garden. Now, the giant is thinking and thinking, boy, he could not see the spring in his garden. There was a spring outside of his garden, but he could not get the trace of his spring in the garden. So, in the spring, everything looks gloomy, lifeless, and dry and cold. And these things were seen in the garden of the giant. He thought that the spring will come, then the summer will come. So, he thought and thought, but it's a matter of sorrow. No spring or no summer came to his garden. Dear students, here now I can give you a question and you can think about the question. What happened? What happened in a garden? In a garden in winter. In winter. This is the question, dear students. Okay. Now we can answer the question. A winter is a season of cold. That's why we do not see a garden festive look, because we see the trees are lifeless, because there were no leaves, no flowers in the trees, and we see dew and frost here and there in the garden in winter. Besides, a winter comes with a message of sorrow and sufferings. But we can say, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Wells and O comes by turn. Human life is full of anxiety and full of suffering, we know. So happiness comes, then sad things will come one after another. So dear students, from this lesson we can learn a lot of things. We have two kind of forces in our mind, in our heart, in our brain. One is evil force and another is good force. Evil force always inspires us to do bad things, to do crime things, to do harmful things. And good force will encourage us to do good for the mankind, to do good for the nature. So we must avoid our bad force or evil angel, and we always welcome our good angel or good force. Thank you, my dear students. I want to declare an end of my class now.